So, as many of you know, I'm a fan and I do enjoy partaking in the fantasy football a little bit. And if you're going to play PPR, at minimum half point PPR is the way to go because it gets more players involved and also it is more accurately representative of who is good and who is not, and sort of evens out being touchdown dependent. Anyway, so PFF, to their credit, has really built up their fantasy football side, and it has some great writers. So today we're going to go through their fantasy football top 150 for PPR. This is by Ian Hartitz, which, all right, so we're going to look at where the Vikings are placed and if it's accurate, if it is astute, or if it's completely disrespectful, and we will burn Utica to the ground. One of the two. All right, so, of course, even in PPR, running back, especially receiving running backs, are going to be extremely valuable. So the top 5 is all receiving running backs. Well, and Saquon. So you got McCaffrey 1, whatever. He's going to be Teddy's BFF, sure. Now as a quarterback known for his willingness to check down, how dare you? I take back everything I said nice about Ian Hartitz. He doesn't say his name. Say Teddy Bridgewater, but no. Saquon 2, just because he's going to get all that work because you don't want Danny Dimes throwing the ball. Zeke, running back 3, sure, whatever. Alvin Kamara, the thing about Kamara is that he's just not going to get the complete volume of work, which he certainly doesn't need all of the work in New Orleans to be fantasy relevant. But top 4, like, you're really going to put Dalvin at 5 and then have Kamara at 4? I don't know, man. Especially given, yes, there's a lot of things around Dalvin, mainly health, also potential holdout. Even though we outlined his nuclear option, he could hold out. Show up for training camp and then hold out in the season. I don't know if he's going to do that, but if he is fully healthy, he is going to get the lion's share of the work. And as he points out, the Vikings bell cow running back, OC Gary Kubiak starting a running back has always been a fancy cheat code, and that's for sure. I mean, you look back at Denver when he was OC with Shanahan. You look at Terrell Davis and Orlandis Gary and the Clint Portises of the world. And then you look at the Texans, you look at Arian Foster, and you even look at Ben Tate to a degree. So, yeah, Kubiak is going to be just going to be working it. Next up for the Vikings. So you have Adam Jerome, Ezekiel Thielen at number 18 as wide receiver 6. Now, this was surprisingly high for me. So you think back, Adam Thielen down 2019, but also the Vikings moving towards a more run-heavy offense. They think, is he going to have as many opportunities as in a normal season with the Vikings? Well, normal, say 2017, 2016, even 2018, Adam Thielen. But the fact that you got Stephon Diggs gone. Well, here's what I said. Thielen missed game action due to injury for the first time in 2019, but returned with a strong playoff performances against Saints, 7 for $129, and the Niners for 5 for 50. Remember, the Niners game was when he had that gash on his ankle when someone cleated him. I still think it was probably Treadwell. There's little to no competition for a featured passing game role. OC Gary Kubiak's number 1 receiver has historical average 138 targets per season. So you look back, Andre Johnson, etc. So I was pleasantly surprised that Adam Thielen was getting hyped up this high, but also hopefully his ADP, average draft position, is still pretty low because I would certainly like to scoop him up in the 3rd or 4th round, but it is absolutely good to see there. So speaking of Diggs is all the way down at number 54 overall, wide receiver 27. Now, you may think this is kind of low. I agree. Diggs last year ended up being wide receiver 24, despite the insane volume that not insane volume, the insane yardage that he put up. He only had, 60-plus receptions, somewhere in there. But here's what I said. The wide receiver position's premier deep ball artist in 2019. Respect. Diggs will, in all likelihood, see an increase in volume and decrease in efficiency with Josh Allen under center. This situation is hardly fantasy death. John Smokey Brown was PPR wide receiver 20 in 2020. So I think Diggs does have a lot more value in standard scoring leagues, which he certainly did last year, putting up 1,300 yards. That's correct. Whatever he put up. But yeah, with Josh Allen, you're not going to see Stephon Diggs put up 80, 90 catches. I think you're going to see a similar stat line to what he had last year. You're going to see 60 catches. You're going to see 1,000 yards. You're going to see X number of touchdowns. And that just doesn't play in PPR. So I do understand why Diggs is relatively low. Also on this list is Alexander Madison at 108. As soon as we get down there. Alexander Madison clocking in at 108, running back 39. He said Madison finished dead last in success rate as a rookie among 45 qualified backs. Okay. But possesses legit big playability, respect, and figures to function as a true every down handcuff if Dalvin Cook misses time with a holdout injury. Yeah, that's why with Dalvin's health, as well as Alexander Madison's skill, as well as the Vikings' dedication to run game, Alexander Madison is the most valuable handcuff in recent fantasy football memory. He really is. And I would not mind at all like spending a mid-round pick on Alexander Madison, especially if you do have Dalvin, just to have that handcuff. But I mean, frankly, even if you don't have Dalvin, just having Alexander Madison as a flyer, as a YOLO bet, whatever, that does make a lot of sense. And the fact that he's ranked up this high, also the fact that he's a pretty decent receiver as well, I think that increases his value, especially in a PPR. Also on the list, so lastly making the list is rookie Jefferson, Justin El Jefe Jefferson, wide receiver 57. So you may see that as kind of low. Sure. But also, if his ADP is pretty low, especially if it's a PPR, I would take a shot because I could see Jefferson, maybe not replicating his stats at LSU, but having a 50, 60 catch season, which certainly puts him on the fantasy relevancy radar. So Jefferson might not have enough target volume to maintain a high-end efficiency as a rookie, consistency as a rookie. I believe the Vikings' uncrowded offense in receiving scores isn't out of the question. A high-frequency slot role from day one is expected. Yeah, so I think that Jefferson will be operating quite a bit from the slot, even if he is in the true wide receiver 2, if that is BC or Tajay Sharp. Also, if you're in a dynasty, PPR dynasty, pay up for Justin Jefferson. Actually, he may be, that's close, maybe him and Judy, if it's a full point PPR, in terms of where you should draft rookies coming into a dynasty. He's certainly up there. But yeah, I think Jefferson could pleasantly surprise and could easily eclipse this wide receiver 57 initial role, and that is it. I mean, that's all the Vikings are on the list. So no Irv Smith, no Kyle Rudolph. Well, Rudy's very touchdown dependent, so it would make a lot more sense in a standard scoring league and not so much PPR. I think Irv Smith could pleasantly surprise some people, and also Kirk Cousins didn't make the list because quarterback is a quarterback is a quarterback, and also, I mean, as we talked about, like Kirk Cousins. Black and white stats were down in 2019 as opposed to 2018. Like everyone and their mom talk about, well, 4,300 yards passing and 30 touchdowns. Again, that's great for fantasy football, but in terms of efficient actual football, he was much better in 2019. Hands down, you really cannot make an argument otherwise. So I think that Cousins will have more of a 2019 feel than a 2018 feel to him in 2020, which is great for actual football. Not so great for fantasy football, but it is what it is. Quarterback play is a dime a dozen. And that's it. Overall, I do appreciate Ian Hartit's lists here. I think the Vikings were pretty much accurately represented here. I think Justin Jefferson late makes a lot of sense. I think Madison being a higher end handcuff makes a lot of sense. Dalvin being in the top 5, you could nitpick. He could be 4 or 3, whatever. And then also Adam Thielen as wide receiver 6 in a PPR, I think is relatively astute as I just keep scrolling. Sorry if I'm giving you guys vertigo. I just want to get backed up to the top. Talk about Dalvin. Although I still will hold against him that he didn't even say Teddy's name. How dare he? Oh, the quarterback for his willingness to check down. So that's why this list is crap. Nah, I'm just playing. It was actually pretty good. But your thoughts? Pro Football Focus's Fantasy PPR Top 150. What's your thoughts on our thoughts? Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Once more of the work, pull us on the Venmo. But until next time, Skull, production value.